Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. JALEN RAMSEY, the outspoken cornerback known for his fearless takes both on and off the field, recently dropped a comment about the Miami Dolphins that has sent shockwaves across the NFL rumor mill, igniting debates, hot takes, and speculation that fans are scrambling to digest. In what seemed like an offhand remark during a post-practice interview, RAMSEY didn't mince words, calling into question the Dolphins' team cohesion, strategy, and overall approach to big-game situations, hinting that beneath the shiny veneer of talent, there might be cracks that could affect their playoff prospects. Social media exploded almost immediately after the statement, with fans dissecting every syllable, analysts replaying clips endlessly, and podcasts dedicating hours to debating whether RAMSEY's critique was fair, accurate, or just another example of his typical provocative style. The rumor has only grown stronger because RAMSEY, despite being a rival on the field, has a reputation for blunt honesty, making insiders wonder if there's more behind the comment than a simple gripe, perhaps signaling locker room tensions or pointing toward strategic disagreements that haven't reached the public eye yet. Speculation around the Dolphins' internal dynamics is now at a fever pitch, with whispers suggesting coaches and players may need to respond publicly or risk further fuel being added to the fire. RAMSEY's critique didn't just target the team's performance in general terms. He highlighted what he perceives as systemic issues in leadership, preparation, and communication, painting a picture of a Dolphins roster that, despite its physical gifts, might struggle to execute under pressure in critical moments. His comments, delivered with that trademark mix of sarcasm and candid insight, suggested that certain players might be overhyped, or that the coaching staff has failed to instill the mental toughness required for high-stakes games, insinuating that talent alone isn't enough to carry the team through tense playoff battles. Fans who have long celebrated the Dolphins' recent talent acquisitions are now caught in a swirl of doubt, wondering if their roster truly matches its perceived potential, while analysts speculate on whether RAMSEY's words were informed by first-hand experience, personal observation, or simply a calculated attempt to stir media attention. The ripple effect has extended beyond fan forums. Even former players and NFL insiders are weighing in, offering their own perspectives, debating whether this is an accurate reflection of Miami's reality or just another chapter in RAMSEY's ongoing narrative as one of the league's most controversial voices. In the sports world, a statement like this doesn't exist in isolation. It often shapes narratives for weeks, and in this case, it has already ignited a wave of speculation, memes, and endless debates about the Dolphins' future trajectory and locker room culture. The timing of RAMSEY's statement has fueled even more intrigue, as it coincides with a period when the Dolphins are navigating a crucial stretch of the season, where momentum, strategy, and morale could define playoff positioning. By making such a blunt assertion, he's essentially throwing a spotlight on the team at a moment when focus, unity, and public perception are crucial, forcing fans, analysts, and opponents to rethink Miami's strengths and vulnerabilities. Rumors are swirling that RAMSEY might have insider knowledge or conversations with players that informed his critique, sparking speculation that there could be disagreements behind closed doors that the public hasn't seen yet. Media outlets are framing this as more than just a hot take, calling it a potential warning shot that Miami may need to address internally before it affects on-field performance. Meanwhile, social media is a wildfire of reactions, ranging from defensive Dolphins fans to those who agree with RAMSEY's assessment, each adding layers to the conversation and turning what could have been a simple opinion into a story that dominates sports commentary. Analysts are dissecting every nuance, considering past trends, player personalities, and coaching strategies, trying to predict whether RAMSEY's statement is a prelude to larger revelations, a tactic to gain leverage, or simply the commentary of a player unafraid to speak candidly. This particular rumor is growing in intensity because it touches on both performance and culture, two areas where speculation can morph into belief almost instantly, keeping the sports world glued to every emerging detail. Sources close to the Dolphins organization have reportedly remained tight-lipped, which only fuels speculation further, as silence in situations like this is often interpreted as acknowledgement or concern. Insiders have hinted at a subtle but growing tension between certain members of the roster and management, suggesting that Ramsey's remarks might resonate with others behind the scenes. In forums and fan groups, discussions about locker room chemistry, leadership dynamics, and pressure handling are now at the forefront, with some fans claiming they've long suspected underlying issues that haven't been visible during televised games. The rumor mill is operating at full speed, with sports media speculating on everything from practice intensity to play-calling philosophies, trying to connect Ramsey's blunt critique to concrete examples from recent matches. Analysts are dissecting Miami's recent game tape with renewed vigor, searching for patterns or mistakes that could lend credibility to Ramsey's point, while debating whether this critique could pressure the coaching staff to adjust tactics or personnel. What makes this situation even more compelling is Ramsey's history. He has a record of being candid about teams he faces, sometimes providing surprisingly accurate assessments, and sometimes just stirring conversation for entertainment value, making it difficult to separate insight from provocation in his statement. This combination of timing, delivery, and Ramsey's reputation has created a perfect storm for the rumor to spread uncontrollably, ensuring that every aspect of the Dolphins organization is being scrutinized under a magnifying glass by fans, commentators, and rival teams. Even more intriguing is the way this rumor has intersected with ongoing narratives about the Dolphins' season trajectory, player performance, and media coverage. Ramsey's statement has ignited debates over whether Miami's roster construction is balanced, if key players are overvalued, or if leadership is struggling to maintain focus during critical moments. Some analysts are suggesting that Ramsey is indirectly pointing to potential weaknesses that rival teams might exploit, while others argue that this is simply a media moment, amplified by his provocative style rather than reflecting real team dysfunction. Fans, however, are caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty, unsure whether to feel alarmed, vindicated, or simply entertained, as social media polls and threads explode with heated discussions and dissected soundbites. The narrative has also forced players to respond publicly or risk appearing disengaged, with some offering diplomatic remarks and others choosing silence, adding another layer of tension to the unfolding saga. This dynamic has created a scenario where Ramsey's single comment has influenced not only public perception but potentially internal team strategy, sparking questions about whether coaches will shift messaging, adjust schemes, or confront locker room morale to address the implications of his critique. As with any high-profile sports rumor, the feedback loop between media amplification, fan interpretation, and team response has created an ecosystem where every statement carries weight, and Ramsey's words have inserted themselves squarely into the center of that ecosystem. The ripple effects of Ramsey's critique have gone beyond the Dolphins and their immediate fan base, touching the broader NFL ecosystem, as rival teams, commentators, and bettors analyze Miami's potential vulnerabilities in light of his comments. Sports analysts have speculated on whether opposing teams might use this narrative to gain a psychological edge, planting seeds of doubt and amplifying internal challenges before a big game. Meanwhile, social media continues to dissect every nuance of Ramsey's phrasing, from subtle word choices to tone, interpreting them as signals about either his personal bias, insider knowledge, or strategy-driven media influence. Podcasts and sports talk shows have turned the story into multi-hour deep dives, debating whether this is simply Ramsey being candid or a calculated move to pressure a high-profile organization. This multi-layered discourse has transformed what might have been a minor remark into a dominant storyline that shapes public perception of the Dolphins season. Fans who once focused solely on wins and losses are now analyzing personality dynamics, leadership effectiveness, and locker room morale, all triggered by a single statement. The rumor has grown exponentially because of Ramsey's reputation for unfiltered honesty, making insiders and analysts alike wonder if there is truth hidden within the provocation, creating a captivating drama that has captured the attention of the entire NFL community. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? The context in which Ramsey's comments were made also adds to the intrigue. Coming off a string of high-profile games, and with the Dolphins navigating both challenges and expectations, his critique seems less like an isolated remark and more like a pointed observation about team resilience and preparation. By highlighting potential structural or cultural flaws, Ramsey may have inadvertently, or perhaps intentionally, forced the Dolphins to confront uncomfortable truths about their approach, adding pressure on coaches and players to publicly demonstrate unity and competence. Rumors suggest that locker room conversations have become more cautious, with players reportedly being mindful of statements to media and social platforms, aware that even subtle comments can now be interpreted as confirmation of Ramsey's assertions. The media landscape amplifies this tension, with analysts interpreting body language, interviews, and practice footage to find validation for the claim, while rival teams may see an opportunity to exploit perceived weaknesses. Ramsey's role as both a critic and a provocateur magnifies the effect, as his reputation ensures that anything he says resonates far beyond casual conversation, creating a scenario where every interaction, gesture, and tweet becomes fodder for speculation and rumor, feeding a cycle that keeps attention squarely on the Dolphins. Beyond strategy and locker room speculation, Ramsey's critique has sparked broader discussions about culture in the NFL, player accountability, and the role of outspoken athletes in shaping narratives. His remarks have prompted analysts to question whether modern teams are equipped to handle candid, high-profile criticism from rival players, and whether organizations like the Dolphins need to cultivate resilience not only on the field but in public perception and internal dynamics. The rumor has transcended simple team gossip, touching on deeper questions about leadership, communication, and psychological preparedness, as insiders debate whether Miami's coaching staff is ready to manage both performance and public image. Fans, meanwhile, are dissecting every aspect of the team's identity, from draft choices to training philosophy, linking perceived weaknesses to Ramsey's commentary, and creating a collective analysis that blends sports expertise, personal bias, and speculative storytelling. Podcasts, blogs, and social media threads operate in a feedback loop where each rumor feeds another, creating a perception that the Dolphins' situation is more fragile than it may actually be, illustrating the power of a single, well-timed statement in shaping widespread opinion. This amplification effect demonstrates how in today's sports media landscape, even casual remarks can dominate discussion, influence sentiment, and provoke multi-layered analysis that blends fact, conjecture, and narrative drama. The intensity of fan reaction to Ramsey's comments has also introduced an element of unpredictability in the narrative, as emotions range from outrage to agreement, with some supporters defending the team's record and talent, while others speculate about cracks in the foundation that might undermine playoff hopes. This duality feeds the rumor further, creating a scenario where every game, decision, or interview is scrutinized through the lens of his critique. Analysts have noted that in situations like this, perception can become as influential as performance, with media amplification driving discussion about intangible elements such as morale, trust, and chemistry, which can subtly affect outcomes. Social media debates often reach a fever pitch, with fans and commentators dissecting coaching decisions, player behavior, and off-field dynamics in an attempt to validate or refute Ramsey's assessment. The speculation has become a narrative unto itself, independent of actual results, suggesting that the ripple effect of a single statement can shape the story arc for weeks, influencing fan sentiment, coverage angles, and even strategic considerations, making Ramsey's words more than just commentary. They have become a catalyst for an ongoing drama that engages audiences across platforms. Rumors about the Dolphins' internal dynamics have also begun intersecting with speculation about broader NFL implications, as analysts consider how the team might respond to external scrutiny and whether rival franchises could exploit perceived vulnerabilities. Ramsey's comments, while provocative, also serve as a reminder that reputation, perception, and psychological edge play critical roles in competitive sports, often influencing decisions beyond what appears on game tape. This has led to discussions among commentators about whether Miami's players and staff will adapt proactively, change messaging, or publicly counter the narrative to preserve confidence among fans and teammates. The story's evolution illustrates the cyclical nature of rumor and response, where a single observation sparks debate, influences behavior, and then becomes part of the narrative it initially sought to critique. As insiders weigh in, speculate, and leak hints, The original statement grows into a multi-dimensional saga that engages audiences far beyond traditional sports reporting. In this case, Ramsey's remark has catalyzed an intricate web of analysis, opinion, and speculation, creating a situation where attention, tension, and curiosity converge, ensuring that the Dolphins' internal and public narrative remains a central talking point in NFL discourse. Ultimately, Jalen Ramsey's unexpected critique of the Miami Dolphins exemplifies the intersection of talent, perception, and media influence in professional sports, turning what might have been a passing comment into a full-blown conversation about team culture, leadership, and preparedness. Fans, analysts, and insiders are all engaged in dissecting the implications, blending observation, conjecture, and interpretation in an attempt to discern truth from provocation. The rumor has sparked debates over coaching strategy, player accountability, and organizational communication, with each party interpreting the comment through their own lens, sometimes reinforcing pre-existing beliefs and sometimes challenging assumptions. What began as a provocative statement now shapes narrative arcs across social media, traditional media, and locker room speculation, highlighting the power of words in the sports ecosystem. Whether Ramsey's critique reflects reality, personal opinion, or a strategic ploy, it has become a focal point for dialogue, analysis, and rumor generation, keeping fans and commentators alike intensely focused on the Dolphins. In this scenario, a single voice has managed to influence discourse, create intrigue, and reshape perception, proving once again that in the NFL, even offhand remarks can ignite drama, debate, and speculation that resonate far beyond the initial comment, making the Dolphins' internal and external narrative more fascinating than ever. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.